Hello friends, today we are going to watch Dear John, which begins in the year 2003. At this time, John, a staff sergeant with the United States Army Special Forces, is wounded in Afghanistan. After being shot twice, John drifts into his childhood memories when he used to collect coins with his father. Comparing his life to a coin, he reflects that just as a coin plays its role, he too is serving his country. The story then shifts to John's past, where he meets a girl named Savannah. Savannah is standing at the beach with her friends when she accidentally drops her purse into the water. John, who happens to be nearby, immediately jumps into the water and retrieves her purse. Touched by his act of kindness, Savannah invites John to her barbecue party. At first, John declines the invitation, but later decides to go. At the party, John and Savannah have a long conversation. Meanwhile, a young boy who is not mentally typical approaches Savannah. This boy is Tim's son, and Savannah has been caring for him since he was a child. John is deeply moved by Savannah's kindness. During their conversation, Savannah remarks on the beauty of the moon, and John shows her how to hide it by placing her thumb in front of it. This simple gesture strengthens the bond between them. After the party, John asks Savannah out on a date, and she happily agrees. The next day, when John drops Savannah off, Tim jokingly warns him, "Don't hurt Savannah, or it won't end well for you." This protective statement was something Savannah's father had taught Tim. During their date, Savannah asks John about his family. John hesitates and tries to avoid the topic, but Savannah makes it clear that she likes him and wants to meet his father. Eventually, John takes Savannah to his home, where she meets his father, John's father, who loves collecting coins, engaging in a heartfelt conversation with Savannah about his collection. Seeing this interaction, John grows even fonder of Savannah. Over time, John and Savannah's relationship deepens. John takes Savannah to a house under construction, which is being built for hurricane victims. During this visit, Savannah notices a scar on John's head. John shares that he was once a fighter but has since changed. Their relationship grows stronger as they spend more time together. However, the time soon comes when John must return to his army duties. He reassures Savannah that the 1 year apart will pass quickly, but Savannah is heartbroken. She promises to spend time with John's father because he needs her. John's father has Asperger's syndrome, which makes him socially withdrawn and obsessively focused on a specific interest. John becomes frustrated with his father's behavior and leaves the house in anger. Later, he confronts Savannah's friend in frustration and ends up hurting Tim. The next day, John realizes his mistake and writes a letter to Savannah. When he goes to her house to deliver it, she isn't home, so he goes it to Tim and leaves. Later, Savannah visits John's house with the letter. They reconcile, forgiven each other, and their relationship resumes. John returns to his army duties, but he and Savannah stay connected through letters. After some time, however, Savannah's letter suddenly stops coming. John waits anxiously and eventually he receives a letter from her. In it, Savannah writes that she is breaking up with him. She admits that she lacked the courage to tell him sooner and apologizes for the silence. Heartbroken, John burns all her letters and immerses himself in his military duties. During this time, John is shot twice in Afghanistan. The story then returns to the present, where John is offered the option to return home after treatment. However, he chooses to continue serving in the army. John serves his country for a long time, but one day he receives word that his father is gravely ill. He returns home and goes straight to the hospital where his father has been admitted. The doctor informs John that his father has had a heart attack. John deeply regrets not spending more time with his father. In the hospital, John writes a heartfelt letter to his father expressing his feelings and recalling childhood memories. When John reads the letter aloud, his father holds his hand. Sadly, his father passes away shortly after. After his father's funeral, John returns home. On the way, he notices Savannah's farmhouse where they had met earlier. John decides to visit Savannah at her house. Savannah invites John inside. To his surprise, he discovers that Savannah has married his neighbor Tim. Tim's son, who has a mental disability, is now under Savannah's care. Savannah explains that Tim was diagnosed with cancer and that they had to sell their house to pay for his treatment. However, they have now run out of money for further medical care. Savannah takes John to the hospital to meet Tim. Tim apologizes to John and explains that he married Savannah because there would be no one to care for his son after his death. He also reveals that Savannah still loves John and that he has never seen love for himself in Savannah's eyes. After hearing the truth from Tim, John returns to Savannah's house. He asks her, "Why didn't you call me once to tell me all this?" Savannah replies, "If I had heard your voice, I might have changed my decision." Overcome with emotion, Savannah begins crying and hugs John. She explains that after Tim was diagnosed with cancer, she felt she had no choice but to marry him to secure his son's future. John realizes how selfless and kind-hearted Savannah is. The sacrifice he made for Tim and his son is extraordinary. Moved by her actions, John goes home and sells his father's entire coin collection. The sale brings in a significant amount of money, which he anonymously transfers to Savannah's bank account to help cover Tim's medical treatment. However, John keeps one special coin from the collection as a token of good luck and a reminder of his father. Savannah does not know that John was the one who sent the money. She writes a letter to John telling him that thanks to an anonymous donation, Tim's treatment could continue for 2 more months. However, despite the extended care, Tim could not be saved. After Tim's passing, Savannah tries to move forward with her life. She often finds herself reminiscing about John whenever she looks at the moon, which has become a cherished symbol of their memories together. John's army service eventually comes to an end and he returns to his country. After years of serving with dedication, he now seeks a quiet and stable life. One day, while parking his bike, John notices Savannah sitting at a nearby coffee house. His heart fills with joy at the sight of her. Without hesitation, he walks into the coffee house and approaches Savannah. Savannah greets John with a warm smile and they embrace. In that moment, it feels as though they have left behind all their past bitterness and pain. Together, they decide to begin their lives anew. The story concludes here, hinting at a fresh and hopeful chapter in their lives. This story reminds us that life often brings challenges that go against our desire. However, it doesn't mean life comes to a halt. We must learn to forgive, let go, and move forward with a sincere heart. So friends, how did you like this story? Do tell us in the comments box, and for such movie explanation, please subscribe to Movie Recap English. See you in the next movie. Till then, bye bye, take care.